This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
The numbers told the story, they always do.
It's one of those idiots who believe in analytics.
This is a numbers game with Gil Alexander on VSiN.
Good Wednesday morning to you. It is a numbers game at VSiN, the sports betting network, VSiN.com, Game Plus, iHeartRadio, YouTube TV. How about some Sirius XM Channel 158? However you take us in, we appreciate it. It's Gil Alexander. It's Kelly Bidlin. This is a numbers game.
And again, you get bonus points if you take us in with always. If you get YouTube TV, if you get Sirius XM, if you get your Alexa playing. I'd like a video of that, actually.
That would be outstanding. That would be outstanding. We got an outstanding show. JVT joining us in mere minutes. Let's call it. Our senior NBA analyst, talk about all things NBA and beyond. Matty Cox from Three Man Weave. Great college basketball game last night, which we'll get to. Cognizant Classic preview. Golf with Kelly Bidlin. Kelly Bidlon's got some Cognizant Classic thoughts.
The old Honda. Gil, this is my stomping grounds, Palm Beach Gardens.
That's the old Honda. Now they call it the Cognizant.
That's right.
Yeah. And a little later on the show, Jason Weingarten from Under a Cloud of Smoke. John Legesa. Oh, a little burst of instant offense. The microwave. John Legesa from The Athletic to talk baseball with us. And the Academy Awards, Kelly. The 97th Academy Awards are this weekend. And our very own Brian Ortega will join us to give us his bets.
That's right.
His thoughts on all things movie-wise. And Brian, for those who don't know, is, what would you call him, a snobby movie critic of sorts?
He has his passionate thoughts. Passionate thoughts about movies, Las Vegas, restaurants and bars.
What did he
Check
say?
out Concierge Confidential, his podcast.
He's still doing that?
Yeah, he is.
What did he say to JVT that one time about a movie? He was like, what did he say to him? He goes, maybe you didn't understand the movie.
Oh, my man, that was a day me and JVT were hosting and Ortega was producing. Man, I forget what movie they were talking about, but I had seen it. Me and Brian and I were talking about it, and JVT was asking a question about it. Brian was like, it might be a little too over your head. Something like that.
That's what we're referring to. Anyway, we'll talk about...
JVT probably remembers the details
about
it.
I'm sure he does. Maybe we'll ask him. If only they were both coming on today.
If only they were both on.
A couple of things. One I did allude to last night. I don't know if you saw this game. Georgia beating Florida 88-83. Georgia led at one point by 26 points. And they led by double digits. They were 6.5 point pre-flop dogs here. They led by 26. And even I don't know how to put this. It kind of gets washed away in this. But with about, 5 minutes left in the game, Florida was still down double digits. And they weren't, I don't know, it just didn't feel like they had the ability to push the ball up the court and really make a game of this. And then all of a sudden, the threes just started dropping. And things just started working out very well there. And they came back. What were you just showing me? What were you trying to signal me during that?
You got a hair on your face. That's all I was trying to do.
I'm in the middle of a thing. I'm talking about a game. I'm like, what? And I'm looking at the camera. What happened here?
It was like a third base coach. It was like, steal third, man. I gave him one of these.
Anyway, Florida goes on a run. They actually take the lead. They take the lead with under a minute left, and then Blue Kane hits a three for Georgia. Georgia goes on to win it 88-83. A great game. But one of these games, and we'll talk to Matty Cox about this from Three Man Weave, one of those games that even in defeat, I kind of feel better about Florida, even still.
So I did catch the end. I didn't realize I didn't realize Georgia had that big of a lead. Because I saw Florida come back, take the lead, and then saw the ending. And good call by Dallin Cuff, who was on Georgia yesterday.
Yes, he was. As I believe Dr. Bob was as well. Just random. But, again, we talk college basketball, all these teams that we feel like. And Florida has been a pretty consensus answer to the question of, if I take Auburn and Duke off the table, who's winning this thing? Florida, pretty consensus answer from a few of our guests. And the other thing that we have college basketball-wise, there's always been on the rundown here every single day, and I've kind of not gotten to it yet this week, but I will now, which is the Wooden Award. Which right now, again, it's a two-man race. It has been for quite some time, if not for most of the season. Janai Broome of Auburn and Cooper Flagg of Duke. Flagg minus 160, Janai Broome plus 125 for Auburn. Remember, this was one of these things where Flagg was the dog till he had this massive game one Saturday was it in December or early January? I can't remember exactly. And it flipped. Flagg remains here, minus 160. Broome plus 125. I don't know that I wouldn't bet on Janai Broome right now. at plus 125.
Well, and the reason I caught on to this is just this number came crashing down. I mean, I think Flag got out to like minus 600, something like that. So this is coming way, way, way down over the past week or so.
It's just one of these things too, where if you did based on stats, right? Cooper Flag averages 19.4 a game, Broom 18.6, but Broom has the edge in rebounds, 11.1 to 7.6. Broom 50.7% field goal percentage from the field. Flag 49.1. I mean, none of these stats are going to barrel over the other guy. So it kind of comes down to, what do you think? So Cooper Flag, even if you think Cooper Flag's going to be a better pro, which a lot of people do, that's not what this is, right? This is, who is the best college basketball player in the country. And I think if if we relate it to the Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen thing, what did I say even as a Lamar Jackson guy? The one thing I would concede, that is if you voted for Josh Allen on the basis of, well, if I took Josh Allen off the Bills would have won 2 games. This is, let's put it this way, Janai Broom fits more into that category than does Cooper Flag. I think Duke is better without Flag than Auburn would be without Broom.
Gotcha.
And, he happens to be the best player, talking about Broom, on the best team in the country, in the best conference in the country.
I mean, plus... at least I feel this way. It always feel like they almost try to go out of their way to not give it to the one and done star freshman kid.
Yeah, that's an angle for sure.
Like if there's a comparable case like Broom, and he's been in college for a couple years, it always feels like they want to award the college basketball side of it a little bit more.
Anyway, that's my thought on this day is that the Broom kind of wins on the extra sort of the peripheral things, not on the stats. Okay. We love our listeners, by the way. Thanks to James from Philly for bringing us cards yesterday.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Got me a Joe Gibbs card. Got you a Jameis Winston card. Our listeners are the best. And by the way, gifts are not required, but thank you so much. Doug Wedge in the past, Joe C. with all these great gifts that they've given us. It's so humbling, and we appreciate it. But another thing that our listeners do is they provide us with all kinds of stats. And listeners who have become guests, like Michael Montesano, who won the Circa Booby Prize the first year, $100,000. And he's a regular guest on this show. And I know you and Joe Serralo had him on last week. And when it comes to some of these awards, transitioning now from college basketball to pro, I just wanted to sort of, how can I say this? Just emphasize once again that perhaps we're all Meshuggah for voting on any of this, or for betting on any of this. Defensive Player of the Year, which obviously now has turned on its head because of the Victor Wembanyama deep vein thrombosis that has caused him now to be out for the rest of the season. And so the question becomes, okay, where's the bet here? And you have a market where Jaren Jackson Jr. Is a co-favorite right now with Evan Mobley. And you sort of say to yourself, okay, how do you parse this out? Is there a bet there, or should it be someone who's a longer shot? And what Michael Montesano has done brilliantly is really done a deep dive study on who has won the award in the past and what stats have led them to winning that award. And the question then becomes, vis-a-vis the betting market, does any of this make sense? Here's Montesano's grid for the Defensive Player of the Year past winners over the last decade. And what you will see is that he has different rankings, right? Team defensive rank, the player defensive rating. You have the, DWS right there is the
defensive win share.
Win shares, that's a individual metric. And he goes on and he has a weighted average on the right side for those categories. He has a weighted average, and then later he has a counting stats average. But we show the weighted average here, and you see what the lower, by the way, the better, right? Because we're talking about ranking, so obviously first is better than 10th. So you see, like, Giannis was the most dominant of all in 2020 in the pandemic year, in the bubble. That year, 1.0, that was the best ever. But what he did then was sort of compare to what's going on with the players this year. And there's a lot of takeaways. One of which is, if we could throw up that graphic if we have that one, but one of which is, you take a guy like Evan Mobley. Let's go to the co-favorites, right? Right now, Evan Mobley, if you look at his numbers right there, those are unbelievably similar to what he has had in past seasons, right? It's basically the same scoring rank. That's the weighted average ranks in the second column. And the same counting stats, defensive rebounds, blocks per game, steals per game. as he did last year, right? Little better scoring rank this year, perhaps. But last year, he received no Defensive Player of the Year votes. This year, he's the second favorite, even a co-favorite. And then when it comes to Jaren Jackson Jr., his scoring rank and counting stats when he won Defensive Player of the Year 2 years ago compared to this year, kind of hilarious. It really is. It's not an improvement. If anything, it's just, maybe even a tick worse in some cases. So those are the co-favorites. So based on the numbers and based on Montesano's deep dive, it makes no sense whatsoever that Mobley and Triple J are your co-favorites in this category. SGA is the guy, right? Those guys are barely in plus money. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is 30-1, and he by far meets the criteria of past Defensive Player of the Year based on the deep dive Montesano stats, both in the weighted average and in the counting stats, and yet the betting market has him at 30-1 because it's the human element of, okay, but are they going to give an MVP candidate, maybe the guy who's going to win MVP, perhaps irrationally over Jokic, who's having his best season, but they're tired of giving Jokic MVP, so they're going to give Shai MVP, and so therefore they probably won't give him both that and this. It's all Meshuggah, is the point of all of that. And good on Montesano because he's given us the actual numbers that have led to past winners and how wildly inconsistent all this is. And by the way, we pointed that out last year when we screamed, y'all are going to give it to Wembanyama, ignoring the reason you didn't give it to him this year, meaning last year.
Yeah, I've bet Zubac. The biggest point of all this, though, I completely agree. The favorites are too heavily mispriced at the top.
Zubac has the highest of the counting stats, by the way.
Yep.
Talk about rebounds, blocks, and steals put together. We'll come back. Let's talk some NBA with JVT on the other side. It's a numbers game at VSiN.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big. We go all night. And here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it, it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
On the next Follow the Money, getting close to March and the madness, we continue with the good college basketball and NBA card. Matt Humans with picks, golf, and hoops. Dallin Cuff, ESPN College Hoops. Mike Montesano on what's going on with Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA. And the VP of Circa, Mike Palm, with You Cannot Be Serious. Follow the Money weekdays, 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, and now Sirius XM Channel 158.
The Numbers Game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to bet smarter? Start with Smarter Insights. Right now you can check out articles like Adam Burke's AL Central Team Previews. Love that. Greg Peterson's Best Bets in College Hoops, Wes Reynolds' Cognizant Classic Preview, and later today you can check out Zach Cohen's Best Bets in the NBA, Jonathan Davis's Best Bets in the NHL, and Tyler Shoemaker's Men's and Women's College Hoops Best Bets. All of that at VSiN.com. To access it all right now, you can sign up for as little as $9.99. Just head to VSiN.com/subscribe to sign up today. We had tweets at Beating the Book. Always appreciate it. Why did I scream there, by the way? That was a little screamy on my part. This is from Michael Harrison, who says, interesting how sort of back to normal life feels with Gil back on the air. It's like the post-football hangover is officially over, and I'm back to caring about sports again. That's very nice of him to say that. Dan Abrams co-signing. We got to get Dan on the show. Co-signing on the college basketball formula in terms of the fact that it is not again, the biggest thing about the formula is it's just emphasizing, yes, there's a lot of upsets, but they're all usually confined to week number 1. Al Bernstein talking about the college basketball formula. He says this great take demonstrates why it's one of the best. We're here, one of the best at giving sports betting insights. He's informed and specific and an excellent communicator. Al Bernstein giving us that kind of praise.
When are we going to the lounge show?
Oh, I missed it because of vacation. Or no, because I had to do something. I had to go to college. I'm so upset.
Yeah, me too.
Jessica Brand from Baseball Reference says, since we're doing MLB season win totals, she ran her own model. She says she agrees with the sequencing for 2025. She made Cleveland's number 78.5, so she loves the 82.5 under on our Cleveland Guardians season win total under. DJ Jams, did you say that hamburger beats her every time about Iga and Ostapenko yesterday? I will be laughing all day at that one. Welcome back. Yes, I did. Sorry about that. Matt Trudel, join VSiN to get great content and tips like a numbers game, talking about the season win totals breakdown. KCP3. Gilly, please be more thorough explaining your picks. You just seem to get them from thin air. Awesome stuff. Talking about the extended season win total explanation. And then Newmania. Gil, for whatever reason, YouTube TV decided not to record the show for me yesterday. I had no choice but to subscribe on podcasts, and I listened that way. Guess now I have a backup. There you go. That's a good way of doing it. Thank you, Newmania, for checking it out that way. This also from Brian M. What are the odds for John Legasa minus 19.5 decibels versus Sporer? Oh, I think that line's too low. Samuel Ciara, I was debating on making a heavy futures bet on the Dodgers to repeat. I respect your knowledge for baseball and wanted your thoughts. Have a great rest of your day. To you and Kelly Michael Blade Bidlin. Well, I mean, they could win it, but I just don't like the number. And last one, Matthew Mayberry. I agree with everything you guys just said about the Wooden Award. I've been staring at Broom all year thinking of betting him. I just think there's no chance they don't give it to the, quote, phenom from Duke. JVT joins us. He's our senior NBA analyst and, of course, host extraordinaire here on the network. He joins us courtesy of the Progressive Guest Line. You can follow him on Twitter at JVT. How you doing? Sporting the Angels gear.
Yeah, man, this is a good time of year. I'm excited. Baseball season, obviously spring training has started. Hope is abound for every single franchise except for the Anaheim Angels. So very much excited to watch our ace, Yusei Kikuchi, guide us through a 69-win year. I'm very excited.
Wow. This is the most cynical I've ever heard you about this team.
Is Kikuchi really the best pitcher on the roster?
No, I mean he's up there, but I don't think he might be their best. I think they got some guys with some upside, but I am being somewhat cynical with the way the year's looking. Yes.
You teased us off air by saying I have a baseball futures play that you all can laugh at me about. Please do tell.
Yes. So and this has to do with the Angels. So maybe you can get where I'm going here. And we have not really seen this happen over the last 5 years. I'm going to bet on Mike Trout actually being healthy this year. You can find him at 66-1 to lead the league in home runs. And my bet is just that he's going to have a healthy year. Gil, and you saw the starts of the year that he had last year. In just what did we talk about? 29 games, 126 plate appearances. He had 10 home runs. He looked absolutely phenomenal. And then, of course, he gets injured. We only see him for those 29 games. But if I get Mike Trout, who's moving to right field, maybe it's a little less impact on his body, maybe he actually stays healthy, I think there's a better shot than not that if I'm getting a full season of Mike Trout, that he should be 66-1 to win the home run title. So this is literally all it is. I think Trout might have a shot at being healthy, so give me 66-1 to lead the league in homers.
All right, I'm not going to laugh at that.
There is a possibility that we have another MLB guest coming up later that has a pro Mike Trout bet as well.
Oh, yes. You know what? It's so funny you say that because as he was saying that, I was like, did you text me JVT's pick or someone else's later?
Oh, there we go. All right.
Yeah. By the way, just a stat for everybody. Again, I'll ask Kelly there. Give me the year when you think the last time was that Mike Trout had 500 at-bats.
Oh, I know what it is, so I don't want to...
Tell us, JVT.
2016.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that. I totally knew that. I keep track of this stuff daily.
That is
I prep for my shows like this all the time.
That's unbelievable.
That is wild.
Yeah, dude, it sucks. And I think, I don't want to get into the minutia of Angels baseball because nobody cares, but I think there's a real question to be asked as well about this training staff and the way they've handled guys. I mean, for a while, if you remember, Gil, like they were torn UCL Central. Like they had pitchers almost every single year go down with that injury and having to deal with Tommy John. Obviously, Mike Trout has had a lot of health issues, so you wonder if maybe it's the way they handle their players. And Trout finally maybe taking a small step back. I think he should DH, but he's at least going to right field for less impact. So we'll see if this is going to help. But they do have some real questions that handle their guys because, like you guys know, like this has been a team ravaged with injuries, not just elbow injuries. Almost every single year, you're watching a AAA team. By the time you get to the end of the year, at some point you've got to look internally and ask what's going on.
Well, the Tyrod Taylor Chargers doctor needed a job. So, like, come on, man. He needs a job.
They're responsible for Herbert getting in the lineup.
Still such a crazy story.
Puncturing Taylor's lung. That's the only reason why we got to see Justin Herbert that early. Okay, by the way, when JVT says 69 wins cynically, it's barely cynical. Their season win total is 71.5, it should be pointed out. All right, NBA. Luka, last night. Any reaction to that performance at all?
I mean, the Lakers are the greatest team ever created. They're going to win everything, right? I mean, look, I think that I said this yesterday, and this still holds because it was just the Dallas Mavericks who are very injured and very thin. I like how with these big brands, when they get big names, we tend to forget all the other stuff, right? The fact that this is a team that, guys, we watched over the last 2 weeks also get blown up by the Jazz and lose to the Hornets. So, like, we should wait to see because this schedule really has not been great. But it's really going to start to ramp up here in the next couple of days. And we're really going to get some questions answered as to what you're going to be as a team when you're talking about your ability to defend, your ability to go up against other opponents. I mean, look, for a moment, Kyrie Irving was cooking this team, right? Irving had a pretty solid game. And I think it goes back to one of my big questions, which is when you're in that huddle, who is J.J. Redick looking at and going, go get Kyrie Irving, stop him for us. We need something here. He ends up with 35 points. They don't really have a perimeter defender that can take out some of these guards. And I think that's ultimately going to be what we see over a larger sample size. So we'll see. Again, schedule moving forward is going to get a lot tougher after this little easy stretch to get the Timberwolves coming up. We saw what the Timberwolves just did to the Thunder, but I think the jury is still out on what this iteration of LA is.
Any plays tonight thus far?
So there's a bunch of games that I have written down. We want some injury report news as well, but I'll throw out a couple for you. First off, I want to pile on the Philadelphia 76ers suck. They're absolutely awful. They get blown out by nearly 40 points. They were down by 44 against Chicago. This is the team that they think is 1-2-3 Cancooning this early in the regular season, and I want to pile on. Problem is Karl Anthony Towns is questionable to play. If I get confirmation that Towns is going to be out there, there's still a couple of spots with the 9.5, but I think this is worth piling on for Philly. This is a team that I think is just on the way out and has nothing really going for them. The other that you might want to gamble with here might be worth taking 4.5 with the Detroit Pistons. So last night, a cavalcade of errors that ultimately ends up not letting the Celtics cover, but they do win their 10th out of 11 games. But Jaylen Brown, I think he takes like a knee to his knee or a knee to the thigh. He ends up not closing that game out. Kristaps Porzingis gets bubble guts right before the game. He can't end up playing. He gets ruled out, even though he was not on the injury report. Horford's got a sprained toe. So there's, I think, a really good chance that this team's going to be pretty short-handed tonight against the Pistons. And remember, they do have a day off, but Cleveland is coming up on Friday. And I don't know if they're maybe going to rest some guys so they can have everybody all hands on deck Friday for Cleveland. But Pistons might be in a good spot against a short-handed Celtics team because at the most, you might just get Drew Holiday, Derek White, and Jason Tatum. Maybe that's enough for you, but I think it might be worth looking at the Pistons there, catching 4.5 points. Those are the two that I think are the very top of my list. And I will say one last time, I am very pro Atlanta. I think this team's a little underrated. They got the win over Miami the other day. This is that classic switch venues rematch. I think they're going to miss Jovic, the Miami Heat. We'll see where the market goes because they pushed this up to 2.5. But if it gets to 3, give me Atlanta.
Do they put bubble guts in parentheses like after an injury, like Bidlin, groin, Porzingis, bubble guts, that kind of thing?
This was maybe the most absurd one of the year, JVT. Like, yes. I know you and I were texting about it last night, but I'm sitting at my desk working on golf stuff. I get my phone alert with doubtful Kristaps Porzingis, and I'm like, doubtful? I'm like, look up at my TV. I'm like, the game's tipping off right now. What do you mean doubtful, downgraded? And then into the game, downgraded to out.
Yeah. There's just no way you didn't see this coming. Like, I'm sorry, unless I guess maybe he just ran to the toilet like the second the game was about to tip off, and it was like, guys, I can't go. It's firing out of both ends. I don't know, but like this is
You two love betting on this league. I just don't understand it. The real rapid fire JVT on the way out. If John Von Tobel could vote on this right now, he would vote who? MVP.
Oh, it's Nikola Jokic.
There you go. Defensive player of the year.
Evan Mobley.
Ooh.
I don't feel as confident about that
hesitantly.
Yeah.
Most improved player.
Oh, Christian Brown. I would be on the outlier. Let's go.
Okay. I like the first answer. I didn't love the second two answers.
Why isn't Christian Brown getting more love? I bet him preseason. He's been sitting out there the whole year.
He's due. He's due, he says. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. John Von Tobel, everybody, with his Angels gear on. Very excited for a 69-win season, he says. Let's talk some college hoops. Matty Cox on the other side from Three-Man Weave. Does he feel better, even better about Florida, even after a loss yesterday? As do I. As I do. That's next, right here on the Numbers Game at VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
And they're off.
Sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup, then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to vsin.com/pro to join VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Numbers Game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back on a Numbers Game live from Circa Resort Casino, downtown Las Vegas. Gil Alexander. It's my little buddy Kelly Bidlin, everybody. By little, I mean he's dropped 68 pounds. 68 LBs. Last we updated it. We'll do it every week.
Yeah, every week.
No, it's like we'll do the formula and then we'll do the Kelly Bidlin weight thing every week. Still to come, John Legasa. See if he can have some energy this time when he comes on the show, for God's sakes. Talk baseball with him. He's got some thoughts. Jason Weingarten and Brian Ortega on the Oscars. Is he coming with the tux? Do we know?
I don't know. I also feel like this is the first time, I'll just let you know in advance, it's the first time we've ever done this where I haven't prepared any music because I'm tired of getting I'm tired of getting the copyright infringement possibility stuff.
You don't have any of that Oscar music going in?
We always try to work our way around it of finding stuff that sounds like Oscars music, and then I always get dinged with something anyways.
Coming up, Timothy Chalamet.
So I'll just sit in the corner and hum it or something like that.
Okay, good. I just want to read this one tweet. This is from Trip Tepper, who says, "Are we getting, are we getting close to a reprise of the ANG Classic segment NBA Tankapalooza? Cooper Flagg seems to be enough of a future star to merit the tanking. Great to have you back on the VSiN desk after your vacation. Thank you, Trip. As you know, Trip, it just has the Tankapalooza was the greatest thing ever back in 2018. The Suns ended up losing their last 27 games against other non-tanking teams. They went 0-27 down the stretch. We made hay on it. The Suns ended up picking my man, the big man, DeAndre Ayton. I was like Ayton, DeAndre Ayton. And so it was worth it for them at that time. But it was this amazing thing where everybody could tank liberally. And by tanking, again, for those who, at the time, I remember Brent even said to me, he goes, they're not tanking. I was like, it's not the players. It's the way that they construct the roster and specifically who's on the court down the stretch.
Yeah.
And remember, we had Rick Carlisle feigning that he was so angry at calls. And it's like, all right, Rick, you want to lose. He would take Nowitzki and J.J. Barea off the court in the last minute in crunch time just so the Mavericks could lose. And so all these teams were doing, and Devin Booker would have these mysterious hand injuries. We were going to do a one shining moment of Tankapalooza, Falika's idea, that we were going to do that kind of thing with the music. But anyway, in those days, and that was the last year of, the worst team gets the most ping pong balls. And then they legislated against that. So yes, while these teams want Cooper Flagg, it's much more democratic in terms of the ping pong balls now. So you can't tank with the expectation that the game is rigged in your favor.
Yeah, no, that's well said. Can I roll through a few teams, though, just to keep your eye on here? Okay, the Washington Wizards have basically been doing it all season long, so, Malcolm Brogdon is out every other night, and Malcolm Brogdon can still play basketball, still one of the better players on their team. Watch out for the Utah Jazz right now. All of a sudden, Lowry Markkanen and every important player that they have on their team, John Collins, they are out every single night here since the All-Star break. So watch out for those guys. Pelicans and Hornets have just been injured, so they're going to fall into that category anyways. And then the Raptors, though, is on the other side. I actually think they're going to end up playing pretty well down the stretch here. I played an over on their win total during the break.
Worst four have the same number of ping pong balls, I believe. Worst four teams, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're right.
The Wizards, by the way, 10-47. The worst record in the history of the NBA is 9-73. So not quite on pace for that, but they are giving it a run for its money. Let's talk some college hoops. Matt Cox joins us now from Three Man Weave, a third of the Three Man Weave crew. He joins us from the Heartland right now. You can follow Three Man Weave at 3MW_CBB and Matt at Matty with a Y _Cox, COX. How you doing, man?
That was terrific. How are you?
Doing well. I watched that Florida-Georgia game last night, and obviously the big comeback by Florida. I was saying, 26 points. But even with 4 or 5 minutes left, I'm like, they seem to have no urgency with this. They're sort of slowly bringing the ball up down the court, and then they start hitting threes. And then before you know it, they're up before Kane hits the three, and Georgia ends up winning it in the end. But I feel better somehow about Florida after that than I did before. You?
Yeah, I think that was a weird, not say a schedule loss, but it just seemed like for a team that had won, I think they won 6 in a row, and they hadn't played a bad game since the Tennessee game about a month ago to this point. SEC is just too good. SEC home courts are too valuable. Georgia's too talented. There's just no nights off in that league, right? Look at South Carolina, the winless team, taking Texas to the woodshed over the weekend. I think you're going to see a few of these maybe coming down the stretch, like the elite top-end teams dropping a head-scratcher. But, I mean, again, the spread was about pick them. I think it's no surprise to those who actually bet this full time. And Georgia, with how well they played at home this year, not to be expected. I mean, look what Florida did just the game before at LSU. Gave up a 20-2 run. I thought they were toast. And they went on an absolute barn burner down the stretch to close out LSU. I'm all the way on Florida. I'm with you. I think that game was more about, wow, Florida is not that vulnerable. Even their bad in a tough spot is really good and good enough to win against a desperate, talented home team. I think the Gators are in that Auburn elite tier right now.
Yeah, if I said to you, okay, how many teams, and I've asked this in different ways of other people, but I haven't of you, how many different teams right now could you see winning it all? Obviously, we don't know the brackets yet for March Madness.
Right.
But give me your list.
I think the list is Duke, Auburn, Alabama, Houston, Florida, Iowa State, and then I got St. John's sort of on that cusp as well. Outside of that, I think there's a little bit of a drop off, but there's a ton. That tier right behind that tier, though, Gil, I call it. I've been saying the tier 2. Ton of really, 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 really good teams this year, and the really, really, really good teams this year, I think, are better than whatever that comparable crop was the last 10 years. So I think there's a ton of potential for as many as 20, 25 teams to make a Final Four run. And once you're in the Final Four, anything can happen, right? But I still think that top end tier, I'd be surprised if it wasn't Auburn, Duke, Bama, Houston, Florida, Iowa State, and I think Tennessee's probably in there too.
I was going to say, interesting that you included Iowa State. I was about to say interesting that you didn't include Tennessee, but you just did there at the end. And
Iowa State, Tennessee are sort of in the same boat for me. It's like you kind of, not to replay the same annual adage with both those offenses, which have looked poor in high-profile March spots, but I do kind of have a distrust for both those offenses going down the stretch, but we'll see.
Thank you for not including Tommy Lloyd in Arizona, which I consider a personal victory for over the 3.
You're going to hate my bet tonight, then, Gil. I got one best bet for the viewers, so yeah, just to tip my hand. I know. You can stay away from it.
Before you get to that, though, the last thing about that is I'm glad I was surprised you included Alabama. You still think they have a shot at this?
Yeah, so Nate Oates keeps promoting his team's defense, but a lot of their defensive issues are when they're up in games like 10, 15 points. At the pace they play at, I just think they naturally take their foot off the gas. We saw this last year, right? Like, I think there was a lot of conversation about Alabama's defense isn't good enough. It was good enough to get to the UConn juggernaut, right? So I think they can turn it on when they want to. I mean, Mizzou was just on fire. Mizzou's been a fireball down the stretch. I don't put any stock in that game. I still think this Bama team's all the way legit. Yeah, I'd put them in that tier.
If Houston Millett didn't have that knee injury, man, that would have been the difference.
I know.
Yeah, that's the difference.
I was hoping we could back Houston Millett player props the rest of the year, but that was going to be a portfolio of mine, but no longer.
We've only had a connection to 2 players, college basketball players in the history of this show, Ty Jerome and Houston Millett. One has worked out beautifully so far, by the way. Okay, 2 your picks, and you've already sort of hinted at one of them. What do you got?
I only have one, sorry.
It's okay.
I'm kind of a low-volume, selective cherry picker at this point in the year, but I do like Arizona tonight. They're catching Utah. Feels like a lame duck type team. Just fired their coach, Craig Smith. Frankly, a pretty odd firing. I think a lot of people like to back the interim bump. College football, it's a popular angle. College basketball, there's sort of a similar dynamic sometimes. I don't think this Utah team falls in that camp. They're coming from Orlando, Florida, just lost to UCF. They come back cross country. Their second game away from home. They got to play an Arizona team who I think is locked in, motivated, just lost 3 of 4. We're playing really well, frankly, just before that stretch. Got a couple of tough matchups. I think it's a vintage Arizona home spot where they just lay the wood against a team that's going to probably be kind of going through the motions. And Utah's just not very athletic whatsoever. I think this looks like a men versus boys situation, and the dog just doesn't have much juice to really make any sort of comeback or fight in the second half. I think it's a game where they just lean on them, and they end up winning by 17-20. So I like Zona to lay it by 14-15.
Matt will allow it. We'll allow it just this one time. Okay, I bet a lot of in-game college basketball. A bunch of us do in a thread. We bet in-game college basketball.
Great year to do it, it seems like. I don't know how you guys have been doing, but it feels like the runs are just crazy this year.
Some nights are phenomenal, right? Some nights are just spectacular. It's a lot of first-half totals. It's a lot of game totals. And I just want to, what your biggest pet peeve is about college basketball, because I will share you what has become mine, which is the epidemic of how teams play final possessions of halves. Of the first half. This whole notion of, okay, we got the ball with 37 seconds left. Let's bleed our play clock all the way down and take a miserable shot right? Just so, and the other team ends up with the ball anyway and maybe a desperation shot. But the point being is just run your offense.
Yes.
It kills me. Does this bother you as much as it does me?
Yes, it does. I mean, look at Todd Golden at Florida. They're doing chess. That's a chess versus checkers operation. They're fouling guys on defense to get the ball back. I think coaches are just afraid to make that leap. And I think they also don't trust their players to execute because a lot of these teams have so many new players. I think that's part of it as well. It's why you don't see a lot of teams execute the fouling down 3 effectively or fouling up 3 effectively. You have so many new guys. I just don't think they practice these end game situations enough, and that's a problem. So
it is
that's
a
sort of
problem.
maybe the lack of trust.
And you're
a part of it.
Absolutely right about Todd Golden, playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers, particularly in those sequences. Thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate it. Good luck on Arizona.
Thank you, fellas. Good luck in your in-game stuff.
Thank you, sir. Matty Cox from 3-Man Weave at 3MW_CBB. Country Club and golf and tennis next.
Got a good thing coming. Just wait and see. It's a good.
Elevate your sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup, then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to vsin.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
Numbers Game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Don't take a swing in the dark. Step up to the plate prepared with VSiN's MLB Betting Guide. Yes. Get expert tips on how to bet baseball, including a stats glossary to help you break down key analytics. Dive into awards market analysis for MVP and Cy Young. Gain a player's perspective on evaluating pitchers from former MLB pitcher Jensen Lewis, co-host of By the Books with Dave Ross. From advanced metrics to sharp betting angles, the VSiN MLB Betting Guide is your ultimate playbook for the season. Avoid strikeouts at the sportsbook. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber today for as low as $9.99. And reserve your copy of the MLB Betting Guide due out tomorrow. Sign up today at VSiN.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. And I feel like when we do that promo and we do not mention Adam Burke, we are doing the whole thing a disservice. Because Adam Burke is number one on this stuff.
He's amazing. I mean, you always say it, but I did the same thing. There are certain people. One of the cool parts about working at this network is there are people that like Wes Reynolds. I have been following Wes Reynolds on Twitter and some of his golf stuff for, 12 years, something like that. And then you end up working together. Adam Burke, as you always bring up, baseball previews before he was ever working here that were religious reading for us.
I always say it this way because I used to write these baseball manifestos. I would do my season wins. It would be vast. Like, to write a baseball, this is the thing about baseball, to write a capsule of a team, it's so dense when you have to you buttress your argument by densely including numbers. So to write these it's a task, right? Because you can't really get in a flow because you got to constantly, okay, what was the number that I got to put in there? They're this FIP, whatever, right? Whatever the numbers are. And I used to do those, and I used to think, oh my God, these are works of art, masterpieces I've written. And then Adam Burke at Bang the Book came along and did all his. And they were just the best things I've ever seen. And so now he applies that to what we do here at the Betting Guide. Yeah. And, of course, all season long with Adam Burke. And maybe we'll have Adam Burke on here tomorrow to tell us why I'm wrong about the Guardians.
A double dose of Adam Burke tomorrow. 2 segments. Double dose. Yes, he already got back to me. And shout out to Jensen Lewis, too. I think he's been a great addition to the morning show. Love the energy he brings. He was here in town last week, so got to spend a little bit of time with him. Great guy. Very nice.
Before we get to golf and tennis.
I had to raise the chair after he'd get out of it.
Yeah. When he was on there?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call this little segment, Kelly Bidlin Goes on a Rant. Kelly, what did you want to say about Evan Mobley again?
Okay, so why do I think the odds are off and it doesn't make any sense what the favorites are for Defensive Player of the Year and why it's a little bit just lazy, okay? And it's a little, look, the bookmakers are trying to establish odds that they think the voters are going to, what the voters are going to do, right? That's what we're always trying to do. We talk about that all the time here. It's not what we believe should happen. We're trying to handicap what the voters are going to do. So the lazy way to go about it is to look at, well, who do we think are great defensive players in the league? And that's who we're going to go to after Victor Wembanyama goes down. Here's the thing with Mobley. And I think Evan Mobley's a great player. You went through the stats first segment, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The question that I've had or battled back and forth with people for a lot of the season is he's improved from where he's been at in years past. It's not been that huge of an improvement as you went over, okay? And when you look at the most improved player odds, you're going to find Evan Mobley at like 40-1, like fifth player down the board.
As it should be.
As it should be. That makes sense. So how do we translate that to him being the second or co-favorite in the Defensive Player of the Year award?
Yes. This is why Montesano was pointing this out. How is he a co-favorite? It makes no sense.
Both these guys are too short. As you went over Jaren Jackson Jr., he's gonna, he might win it, and it's just gonna be the cop-out winner. It's gonna be the Marcus Smart sort of year where it's, hey, we had planned all along to give it to Victor Wembanyama. Now let's just find the best name that we know is a good defender and give it to him.
Oh, by the way, Dort, who's 10-1, if he wins Defensive Player of the Year, it would be the lowest average rank and lowest counting stats since Marcus Smart won it.
The Thunder stuff is so tough. Montesano's done such a great job with the numbers, and it's just, I don't know how you quantify Dort with all of it, though, because it is tough where you don't get those same kind of production numbers when a guy is usually guarding the best guy on the other side.
You agree with my end of half college basketball pet peeve? Like, I cannot stand stand these teams that are humming along on offense. They 35 seconds, one shot, And inevitably, with like 3 left on the play clock, they hoist up some ridiculous 3 that has no chance of going in. Just run your offense.
It is one of the things about college basketball that really pains me because it happens in the NBA too. It's a basketball thing overall of just, hey, we need to take time off the clock. But in college, like in the NBA, I told you on the break, in the NBA, there's a dude like Kevin Durant to bail you out at the end of a shot clock, taking a fadeaway jumper that nobody can defend, right? In college, these coaches have way too much confidence in their kids being able to execute with 8 seconds left on the clock. Like, no, you got to work your whole offense and find an open shot, not just have some Jimmy or Joe in the corner launch up some 3 that has no chance and never would have.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Kelly Billin Goes on a Rant. Now it's time to go country clubbing. Hit it. No, nothing. Country clubbing.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
It was just very entertaining with the rant.
Well, let's bring that music up, man. There we go. There we go.
I always I find someone new to spot in this open every time. The guy, I like the background extras. The guy's got great hair, though, on the right.
That is the worst club I've ever seen in my life. Empty. Okay, tennis. Yesterday, we had 3 tennis picks. The first one, Juan Manuel Cerúndolo, lost in the 3rd set tiebreaker.
Oh, that's fun. That never happens to you.
No, never. Then we hit on Magda Linette. She ends up winning in straights. And then the third match was Federico Correa plus 116 in Santiago. That's on clay. He's up a set, and then the rain came. So we're up a set, still valid today. Then overnight on the tennis picks, again, all of these available at VSiN.com/picks. Every host, every guest, every sport, all the picks for subscribers at VSiN.com/picks. It pays to subscribe for picks alone because you also get, typically in tennis, we get a lot of CLV on this stuff. And we had 2 overnight. Marin Cilic plus 123 already won his match. So plus 123. We hit a hard court in Dubai last night. And the one remaining is on the ladies' side. This is later today. Maya Joint plus 104 is where I got her against the Croatian sensation Dana Vekic. Maya Joint at plus 104. I'm looking at this right now. Is it still playable? Well, she's in minus money now, I think. But let me see here.
Sorry, I usually help out here.
Well, that's okay. I'm scrambling here. Maya Joint at plus 104, who is a 18-year-old Australian player who is...
I was going to say, I have not heard Maya Joint before.
Pretty darn good. This is in your favorite spot in the world, Kelly. This is in Merida, or as Kelly likes to call it, Merida. She's still plus 101. You could still play this. It's just it's only a few cents worse. But I got Joint over Vekic. Vekic has had a choppy start to her season. Joint is the play later today in Mexico. Golf, Cognizant Classic. What do you got?
Cognizant Classic. First, I got a surprise for you, Gil. How about this is me at the old Honda Classic, name change last year. Me and the great Ken Levica from 2012. This is 13 years ago at the Honda Classic, a.k.a. Cognizant Classic now. By the way, similar problems with hosts over the years. This would be Ken Levica clearly doing a live read off of my computer because he forgot to bring one.
That never
I remember
happens.
that specifically. How about that leather jacket, though? I missed that leather jacket.
Look at you.
Cold day in South Florida.
Is your beard grown from that time?
No. I really went full beard before I got to VSiN. It wasn't until then. I rocked the goatee very often.
Did you rock it?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Very favorable verb you use.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anyways, all right, Cognizant Classic down in Palm Beach Gardens. Love this tournament. Spent a lot of years at it, working down in South Florida. I'm just going to run through picks quick because we don't have a whole lot of time. But guess what? We did over an hour of a podcast on long shot, so go check it out where we went through all of the details you could possibly want to hear for this tournament.
Someone told me you cursed on it.
I did. I said a bad word. Gil, this is a tournament because of how much water is involved. This is the most water balls that you will get on the PGA Tour all season long, more than the players. Usually I go a little bit longer shots. I couldn't avoid some of the guys at the top of the board, though. Shane Lowry, Daniel Berger, Sepp Straka. I'm in on all 3 of them outright-wise. This is Berger's. This is Berger's time. Gil, I texted it to you the other day. I knew I was betting Berger. He's getting back in shape and playing shape. He has played this course roughly 1 million times. roughly, in his lifetime because he grew up right down the street. Love Burger this week. Used him as my one and done on and outright with him. Shane Lowry's had a ton of success here too. T4, T5, second place over the last 3 years at this tournament. Great on approach, fourth on approach in this field, ninth in par 4 scoring. That will be important this week. Sepp Straka, I think you get a little bit of a discount on Straka this week, who's really rounding into a great player, has had a good season already this year, and has played this tournament very well. And then a couple longer shots. Alex Smalley just checking all the boxes stats-wise. Michael Kim as well, playing very well recently. And then a couple top 20s, Keith Mitchell, Gary Woodland, the classic Kelly losers, see if they can get anything done this week at plus 225 and plus 330.
Let's go Daniel Berger on the leaflet. You know who his dad was, by the way?
Jay Berger.
Jay Berger. Top ranking on the tennis tour, number 7 in the world.
Yeah. Met him a couple times.
Leaflet, father and son. We'll come back. John Legasa. Instant offense baseball next.
And we're out.
Okay, give me 1 sec. I need to load funds into my gaming app.